Okay, looks like we are probably live, Mitch.
I'm alive. I've been alive for 58 years. Thank you very much.
Holy cow, 58 years.
Holy cow.
Wow, that's a long time. And,
from last week, before we actually dive into the show, last week, you remember we were having the problem with the black bar on the bottom, and I don't know if you're still seeing it. Are you seeing it this week?
Still seeing it.
Well, it dawned on me that you didn't have your lower thirds turned on last week.
Really?
But I was thinking maybe that was it, but okay, that's not it.
Yeah, I don't know. The lower thirds is supposed to be automatic, but sometimes it just doesn't show up. I wish Hangouts was better.
Hangouts, yay!
And guys, we do know that we could capture this separately from Hangouts, but that would require editing and and work. And this is a free show, and Mitch and I are both up to other things regularly. So sorry for the delay in the audio versus the video, but until such time as we figure out a better solution, that's just how we roll.
That's free.
It's free. You get what you pay for. All right.
That's one of my father's favorite sayings. You get what you pay for, son.
All right. You ready, Mitch?
I was born ready, Bubba.
Born ready. All right. Intro graphic, and in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello and welcome back to a morning episode of DSLR Film Noob Podcast. We've got Mitch
Just
here,
a morning
myself.
Episode.
I say morning because I'm not in morning, but it is definitely morning, and we are both a little off of our game today. No game changers here, just regular game. We're bringing the B game to the table, guys. Mitch, what have you been up to, man?
This is the week of preparation for vacation. Yes.
So this is like things just don't get done as, most of the regular stuff gets put aside.
Yeah. Yeah, like blog posts. So far, there are no blog posts for Friday on Planet 5D because I've been trolling Facebook and working on other things, trying to get ready for vacation. Going on that houseboat.
That sounds nice, actually. Myself, I've been dealing with exploding air conditioners. We have a split unit that's going in for the studio downstairs as soon as that room is completely finished, and the split unit, they fired it up, it ran great for a day, and then it belched about 2 gallons of water out all over the place. So cleaning up that mess, turns out there was
having some trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, there was a
forklift guy.
Yeah, the forklift guy. I still haven't got my garage fixed yet. There's 2 quotes on that. They moved my entire garage. That's wonderful. And then somehow the pipe overnight got clogged. And so it pushed all the water that was supposed to drain out of the air conditioner outside to inside, which is lovely, and it may end up requiring some sheetrock repair, which is
nice.
It's brand new sheetrock, so it's extra fun. I'm really happy, excited about that.
Well, it sounds like your week was maybe as bad as mine. Speaking of bad things, $1,500 in car repairs on 2 cars, tow trucks involved, AAA. Cha-ching!
Driving like a maniac?
What?
You driving like a maniac?
No. The problem is we don't drive our cars much. We sit in the driveway. But anyway, and then an unexpected medical expense for my wife of about $3,000. So,
oh no!
If anybody wants to start sending in donations, my PayPal address is. It's just been one of those weeks.
I'm rolling into a dentist appointment after the show today too. So I looked, my tooth hurt, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I look in the mirror, and my filling's missing. So, I mean, hopefully that doesn't cause internal damage when it passes through me. But
don't put those things off, people. By the way, because actually, my wife's thing was a dental thing, and anyway,
that can go sideways on you fast.
Yeah,
did you know that you can have a heart attack and other heart-related issues from dental issues?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. This is not a medical podcast, and I am by no means a medical professional. So I think it is probably time for the news.
Time for the news.
Whoops.
Time for
for the news. First thing on the list here is actually a graphics card. We've been talking about graphics cards off and on. We did have the GTX Titan release or announcement at least, and before that the 1080. It seems as though it is graphic card season. Now we're getting the Radeon announcements. This is the line that's supposed to replace the Fire Pro line of GPUs. This is the WX series. They have a 100 and 7100, a 5100, and a 4100. The interesting thing about these cards is actually the maximum GDDR5 memory can be up to 32 gigs on the card, and these cards also have an internal spot for an SSD. Now, Mitch, that extra feature of having an entire hard drive on your graphics card and RAM and a GPU, is this just a computer inside of a computer?
Well, let's be realistic. Technically, it always has been, right? It's
True,
just a
true.
bunch of multiple computers slapped together. They specialized each one, so this one is becoming, it's basically almost a smartphone inside of there if you add all the little pieces together. We're just stalling, right? I mean, we're stalling until middle to end of August until the 5D Mark IV is announced. That's what we're doing. Okay, let's just confess. You're all excited about graphics cards, and it might be graphic card season, and I'm really excited for that.
All right, let me tell you why this card is interesting, Mitch. This card.
Okay, please do.
This card has an internal SSD as well as the ability to have up to 32 gigs of GDDR5, which means that you can load massive models into the graphic card storage space and load those at frame rates in the 90 to 100 frames per second. So imagine for a moment, if you will, you're wearing your VR headset and you want to look around a giant architectural structure that you are designing. You could load the entire structure onto your GPU and process and see the image at a speed that would make it conducive to you actually walking around inside of your model. Now,
Nice.
Another interesting thing, and this is actually more of a medical application, but imagine if you did a scan of a patient and you wanted to look at all the different sections three-dimensionally in real time. With this, you could load all the individual small scans into the graphics card and then analyze those in real time. Also, with that sort of speed, you could process 8K footage, which
There you go.
that's pretty neat. You could
Yeah.
do that at a much higher frame rate. Previously, cards were limiting you in the 17 to 18 frames per second. Now, if you were accessing that same footage off of this GPU, you could probably get like 30, maybe 60 frames per second real-time playback. So those are all really neat features for people that are doing VR development. They want to have the best VR, and of course the price on these guys. The 9100 is going to be more expensive. Right now I can't get a fix on the actual price, but looking on Amazon and some of the other pre-sales, looks like $3,000. But the rest of the cards, the 7100, 5100, and 4100, will all be sub $1,000 cards, and these are comparable to the GTX 980. Mitch is just, he's falling asleep on me here.
No, I'm not.
To him.
I'm getting ready for the next story.
So go out there, take a look at this graphics card. If you're into VR and you're into development or you're doing some interesting things with models and so on, this is probably a pretty exciting option for you. Yeah, even video editors.
So you're telling me that if you're a doctor, you could be able to do a virtual walkthrough of my body?
I mean, if I had the scans, I would probably need to slice you into very small pieces and then, scan each one and look through it. Now, there's a lot of ways they could use this. If they're doing a like a brain scan, for example.
I don't need that colonoscopy then.
Well, so you mentioned that. Actually, have you seen the pill that you swallow that's a camera?
I have heard about that, yeah.
So you swallow.
That would be cool.
You swallow a pill, and the pill has like 2 cameras in it, and it records its entire trip through your intestines, and then you send it in, and they grab the images, and you're good to go. So,
nice.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting option for those of you who don't like to drink a bunch of slurry and lay on.
Well, I think you would still have to do that.
Oh, that's true, because you have to clean everything out, so you can.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want that thing getting embedded in the middle of your, and then it wouldn't record anything, right? So, yeah, you'd still have to do the clean out process, but at least you wouldn't have to go under anesthesia and all that other nastiness, which I've had trouble with.
All right, speaking of cleaning out, let's not
yeah.
clean out our inventory of Atomos Ninja products just yet. I know they have new fancy things on the horizon, but it looks like they've announced some firmware updates for some of their older model of recorders. It looks like the feature added to this will be more dynamic range. No, folks, this will not change the screen on your older device, but it will actually give you a little bit better representation of the image by changing the way it's presented to you as far as the dynamic range is concerned. They're also adding a public beta for Cinema DNG. That means some raw internal recording, 444, for Sony FS7 and 700 users. Mitch, are you excited about this at all? Firmware updates. Man, it is. This is just a dogged, slow news week. There's not a lot going on, folks. Let me tell you.
The key to me is don't be confused, because the implication when I first read this was that they were somehow getting better dynamic range out of the original source material. Right? I mean, it just came across as, oh, well, great, we want more dynamic range on everything, right? But you got to realize that what they're saying, at least the way I read it, and help me if I'm wrong, I mean, the original sensor isn't going to get more dynamic range, right? The original footage. And what they're saying is that realistically, their recordings were slightly less dynamic range than the original
what the sensor was presenting.
Right?
Yes.
And so this is good news, although it's kind of disappointing because you thought to yourself, hey, wasn't I getting the exact original footage in the first place? So now I'm confused. Maybe it's a good thing, right? More dynamic range is typically a good thing. But anyway, go ahead.
I think mainly it's the way that they're handling the image on the screen for you to look at. That's how I read it, looking at the firmware update. They're changing the way it's presented so that it's utilizing the maximum amount of dynamic range available for that older screen, and it's giving you a few of the features that are available in the newer versions of the Atomos recorders. So it's nice that they're still supporting these older products and adding firmware updates to them, even if they're not the latest and greatest. As far as the Cinema DNG, it's still in beta, guys, and you do need a camera that supports that output. So it looks like the FS5 and the FS700 will get you there if you have one of those. Both of those, I think, require an upgrade, though. The FS5, I think it's a software upgrade where you pay Sony, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but don't you pay Sony to get the 4K upgrade for the FS5 and then the FS700? Isn't that a module of some sort?
Hi, DJ. I don't have a clue.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I remember the original was that you had to pay like $3,000 to get those. But I swear somewhere along the line they decided to get rid of that, didn't they?
I don't know.
I don't know either. And I apologize because you're right. I missed the one word in this top paragraph that says brings expanded dynamic range viewing when shooting in log. I missed the word viewing. So you're right. It's about basically the way you look at it on their screen. So I apologize for my little, but it's, I mean, it's important. Those one little word things, if you're skimming, you miss the important words, you're screwed.
Did you ever see that commercial where they're building a car and it's like soccer week or soccer month and none of the cars come out right?
No, because they're all watching.
Yeah, because they're all watching soccer. I feel like I feel like this is one of those weeks. Moving on, this is actually something kind of exciting here. Let's take a look at a new Nikon lens. This is the 105mm f1.4, and it is an AF-S, which is the extra fancy autofocus for Nikon. This lens will set you back around $2,000, $96 is the price, but it has all of the aperture, and the images out of this thing look really good. This is a beautiful looking lens. It has all of the bokeh. Look at these test shots here. It's really attractive. What do you think, Mitch? For Nikon shooters, is this pretty exciting compared to the 105 offerings from other manufacturers?
Yes, of course. I haven't shot with a 105, but I was impressed with like the bokeh on the image sample with the glasses, the wine glasses. It's very smooth. That's the bottom one on that link.
And of course, it's in Chinese for some reason, and nothing is loading.
Yes, there you go.
There we go. Look at that.
The sad thing, the thing that really pisses me off, and I love to get pissed off, is you click that, and for those of you watching on video or live, and thank you for watching, by the way, this is a tiny ass image. Why can't they give you a frickin' bigger image? And it's just like really disappointing because you want to go in and you want to see detail, and it's tiny.
Well, and it's JPEG. I mean,
yeah.
Come on. Give me some raw images to look at.
Well, yeah, you'd have to be able to download them, and theoretically, we run into the problem where, depending upon the camera model, whether or not it's a newer camera, sometimes you can't always read the raw images, but that's a whole other matter. But they're small. They're tiny.
They're giving you 1280 by 854 pixel images, which is sort of ridiculous.
Oh, okay. I apologize. There's a link right underneath, and again, we're trying to read something that's non-English, so it's our bad because we haven't learned other languages. There's a link that actually gives you a slightly bigger image. I mean, it's just not that much bigger. But anyway, no. I like the bokeh on this. It looks pretty nice, but there's only 4 samples here. It's not like so you're putting out a lens, right? You are put on your little Nikon / Canon / whomever hats.
Okay.
You put out great specs and you tell everybody how wonderful it is, but wouldn't you put out a massive amount of images to truly show the way your lens works? Well,
I thought traditionally when they released a new lens or announced a new lens, they sent it out with maybe an explorer of light of some kind. And that guy, runs around and takes dozens and dozens of great shots, and then they pick out, a handful, like 12 or 15 photos or more, and then they post them all in very high res so people can look at all of the sharpness in the corners and see all the things wide open. And they've got various examples of f5.6, f1.4, and so on. And, as a camera company that sells a camera that actually shoots video, maybe they would even release some video with this,
What?
That'd be really nice, It'd be great to see.
What a concept.
But you're right, Mitch. This is sort of disappointing. Now, it is a beautiful lens, or it looks like a beautiful lens. I would be excited personally to have f1.4 at 105. I mean, that's right there in the sweet spot, a little bit more reach than an 85 millimeter, and f1.4 will give you beautiful out of focus backgrounds. So for portrait shooters, this is going to be a wonderful lens. Is it going to replace your 51.2 or your 85.1.2 or 85.1.8 or your 85.1.4 in the case of Nikon, because they actually have an 85.1.4? I don't know, probably not. Do you need this lens? If you don't have that range, probably. It's a great lens, but then you're still trying to decide, do you go with the 85.1.4 or the 105.1.4? And is it really that much of a difference? Can you step forward, 3.5 to 4 feet in order to accomplish the same field of view?
Yeah. I know we're doing this kind of on the fly, but go quickly, jump over to Petapixel. This is the easiest way to do it. I found this fascinating. We're going to cover it on Planet 5D probably next week. But if you scroll down, DJ, there's an image of a guy with really wild hair that's an animated GIF. of, it says how a camera adds 10 pounds. Well, it's really a lens total. But I found this fascinating. So we're talking about, you mentioned a 50 millimeter versus an 85, and this is a 105. And this popped into my head because we often hear the story about, some lenses add 10 pounds and all that kind of stuff because of the way they work. So this image, it's an animated GIF. For those of you who are listening on audio, go over to Petapixel and look for an article called "This is how a camera adds 10 pounds." And of course, we'll add that to the show notes. But it's fascinating to see that. I've seen them, like side by side before, side by side. And this really shows you how switching from really wide angles down to telephotos changes the way your face looks on certain lenses. And so it's a real sidebar there. We're really, I'm trying to help make this a really interesting show. But so
I would actually argue that the wider focal lengths reduce as opposed to increase. If you think about how a 35 millimeter or a 24 millimeter makes someone's face look, it actually makes you look skinnier than you really are, in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm incorrect in that statement. And at 50, you're about what you'd normally look like, and then you get a slight increase in size going up. So, So would 50 be the sweet spot then, Mitch?
Well, yes, I would agree with you that I think that everybody says that the 50 millimeter, again, on a full frame sensor, if you go into crop sensors, you've got to put in all that other calculation to figure that out. But 50 millimeters is generally believed to be about approximately real life without any spatial distortions like this image is showing. You're right.
So, the reason I bring that up is sometimes, and this doesn't happen very often, but if I'm getting a talking head that's a little bit bigger and they want to look a little bit thinner, you feel like they're concerned about their size, and you slap a 35 millimeter on the camera and you shoot it a little bit closer, and they look at the image and they're like, "I look great," and they're really excited about it. And personally from shooting that it's a little distorted, and it's obviously making their head a little bit smaller and their body a little bit smaller, but they're excited about it. So you say, "Okay, no problem, let's go with that." And that's a pretty standard trick. As far as the stills go, though, I mean, it really kind of depends too on the angle at which you're shooting, because this image in example here is dead on, right straight at the individual
nose,
and he's in the center of the frame. But you start changing the position of the person as well as the way they're facing, and the effect is completely different. If you actually shoot someone from the side and you have that sort of skinnier thing, it makes their head look strange and makes their really pointy almost. And if you have a longer focal length, it actually gives them sort of a narrower face. It's a little bit longer. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but these are sort of just like go-to bits I use when I'm filming. So is it correct? I think it is. Man, now I'm doubting myself here. I don't even know.
No. Don't ever doubt yourself, DJ, because you really know your stuff. But it's for those people who are truly noobs. And again, like I've seen photos side by side, but sometimes unless you're really finicky and you get out a ruler, it's hard to see those differences, which is why I really liked this animated GIF, to be able to show you those things. And you're absolutely right. If you move off center, if you move different directions, you're going to do different distortions. I remember going to see the still motion training several years ago, and a certain lens focal lengths give you certain looks. And you just mentioned that in certain situations, you pull out a lens that will give you a different look and feel based on what you're after. And that's one of the hard things in terms of learning. For all the noobs out there, you got to start somewhere, and you got to start experimenting, or listen to wonderful people like DJ who really know what the hell he's doing, and learn how these different lenses impact situations. Now, if you're broke and you only have a 50 millimeter lens or something, then you've got to learn to live with that. But it's just fascinating to see, especially with technology, to be able to do this animated GIF that would have been difficult to do earlier on, but it just helps people understand how things really visually change. Of course, why they picked this guy with the hair, I don't know.
It's kind of cool, though. I mean, when you showed this to me, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess, I know that that's the case, but
right.
I've never actually seen it demonstrated in a manner that makes it really apparent like that.
And I loved one of the comments on Petapixel that said, can I have his phone number? Apparently he's cute. Okay.
All right. So Nikon's got some great lenses. As a Canon shooter, I've always been jealous of Nikon's glass. They've always had some great stuff, and they continue to kick out some excellence, even if they don't give us enough samples. Now, if you're looking for more excellence in your 360-degree cameras, Facebook, who is starting to branch out into video a lot more than I was expecting, has basically released plans for a VR rig that would be DIY. Now, when I say DIY, this project will set you back around $30,000 and take you roughly 4 to 5 hours to build. But if you want all of the resolution in your 360-degree rig, this will handle it. Now, Mitch, we keep seeing GoPro rigs and these companies like Nikon producing not Nike. The Nokia. Nokia made one, the crazy globe type of thing. Right. Have we seen an explosion in 360-degree video? Because I haven't.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we have. I found when I was looking at information about some of these things this morning, I happened to be over on newsshooter.com because they had an article about the Nikon lens. And they have an article that talks about a football match, a soccer match for those of us here in the United States, over in England that was broadcast in 360-degree format. And I was kind of aggravated because there's an image on the top of their article which looks like a video player. So I clicked it, and it's a screen grab of YouTube with all the comments in it. And I'm like clicking play because I'm thinking I'm on YouTube's website. I'm like clicking it because I want to see how it works. And it's just a screen grab that Shooter posted. And I'm like totally faked out. But for example, this football soccer match, to me, I don't know how exciting it would be if I only have one camera angle and that's from the sideline. And sure, I can look around, but am I going to watch an entire match like with my phone or whatever and have to stand and hold it and turn from side to side? Or if I had a VR headset, obviously that would be better. And it would be like standing on the sidelines, sure, but if you're watching something, don't you want to see all those different camera angles that we watch on TV and stuff? I just don't know that it would be that exciting for more than 5 minutes.
Well, I think maybe if you were watching a chess match and it was a very close-in sort of thing, that wouldn't be too bad. But a soccer field is rather large. So what,
yes.
you get large players when they're really close to the camera and little itty-bitty tiny players when they're at the either end of the goalpost, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way to cut back and forth. I mean, it's just one continuous 360-degree view. Maybe it is out there, and I just haven't run across it, but no one has been sending me links to look at these beautiful 360-degree shots. I've seen a couple of examples where, like, a car races around on a track, or where they have somebody doing, like, weird spin outs and things like that on a parking lot. But other than that, not really a lot has come my way. And I'm trying to think of anything that I've seen. And the only thing that comes to mind is the car and then that music video. You remember the music video with the kids?
Yes.
And yet we keep seeing more and more and more 360-degree cameras, and not just cheap ones. I mean, these are extremely expensive. Now, there's the application of VR, I suppose, but
Yes.
even VR, that's still in its, I want to say, infancy as far as media is concerned. We don't have enough out there. What are people doing with these? Are they just getting them and experimenting? Is this the next 3D? Are we going to see like a bust in this in the next 2 years where, you know, no one will care about it at all and there'll be 3D rigs on sale on eBay for $5?
I don't think so. I think in reality, I'm going in a bad place. In virtual reality, I think VR is going to be a big thing. I just don't know how we're going to absorb it yet. And again, like 3D, you had to wear special glasses. If you truly want to be immersive in VR, you got to wear a fancy ass headset. It's fun. To me, it's fun. I told you before that I shot a bunch of stills of Drumline this past winter, Gateway Indoor. Cha-ching! If my sound effects would work. And I don't know, cash register doesn't do it either, realistically, because I didn't get paid for that. But anyway, it's kind of fun because I've been following some people that I met in that group that are doing Drumline this summer, and they're on tour, and I went to see one of the events a couple of weeks ago. And it's kind of big in the Drumline world, for example, to get one of those VR cameras and to put it in the middle of one of the drum lines while they're doing a performance or a practice.
Okay.
And it's kind of cool to be able to watch this band. You know, you're in the middle of the dang thing, and it's kind of fun to be able to be involved in that if that's your thing, marching band or whatever. I'm seeing several of those, and people seem to really enjoy it. And if you got your little phone, you can, look around. But again, to me, it's fun a couple of times, but I'm not going to do it for everything. I'd rather just sit and watch from my one vantage point or on TV or something with multiple camera angles. So we got to see where it goes. Again, we're not talking anything here about filmmaking, right? We still haven't. Yeah. We had that conversation about how do you do filmmaking in virtual reality. So that's way down the road. Still got to come out with a lot of stuff there.
As a filmmaker, you could theoretically do 100% green screen and then capture your surroundings via a 360-degree camera. So I suppose you could superimpose people into, different areas and locations. But that's a heck of a lot of work. And then
that's where that new Litro cinema camera would come into play, because it maps every person that's in the place, So you wouldn't need the green screen in that situation. But I understand your point, and it does take a lot of work. And of course, that camera starts at $125,000 to rent.
Yeah.
So you're talking about big costs, whether you're doing green screen like you were talking about, or this new ability. But being able to map those people into a VR would be really awesome.
Well, with something like that, though, I almost see it as more of an amusement park type of application, because, you film an adventure and you have 360 degrees worth of viewing and the ability to selectively take objects out of the frame and do that sort of thing. So what would you do with that? Well, you don't want a lot of cuts in VR because it has to be interactive. So you almost need to keep people on the rails and going forward in whatever action, the action needs to come at them via some sort of method of pushing them through an environment. So in maybe a theme park, you could have here's your assistant Mary, and she's going to take you through this, and then she hands you a virtual gun and you run around and shoot bad guys, or you solve a crime or whatever, and it's all 100% no cuts, field of view. But in a cinematic format, I mean, there's a lot of humdrum to what people do, and you don't want to have to see all that. And, if the person is in control, the person in VR is in control of it, you either have to have an explorer adventure where you find things and do things, or you have to force, or you have to force people to move forward. Yeah, and that's, AR, or even augmented reality, at least that, you have a drive to go walk over and grab something. But
Right.
as a filmmaker, like a couple of people have asked me to write some stuff up on this, and I can't come up with a really good way to make a short film that would incorporate that sort of field of view, unless you go with something like, have you seen Hardcore Henry?
No.
So Hardcore Henry is a 100% first person point of view shot movie where it's just
Oh yeah, I heard about
from
yes.
the field of view of his hands, and it came from a YouTube short music video that someone created where they shot this entire thing from the perspective of the guy who's running through like shooting people and blowing up stuff and like performing action events. If you did something like that and you were able to sort of stop and look around the entire scene, it could be really cool. But at the same time, again, compositing comes into issue because you have to get rid of everybody that's filming the film.
Right.
You don't just have the actor and a camera strapped to his forehead in order to accomplish a film like this. So,
well, it's a great cost savings because you get to get rid of the editor.
That's true. Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case. It's just, I don't know. And if any of you guys out there have clever, interesting ideas for VR style movie making, I would be interested to hear that. As a video game player, I think VR is going to be awesome. I can roll into my video game and I can have virtual guns in my hands and, shoot stuff and run around and explore a really cool environment. But that is user-driven content as opposed to a story that I'm trying to make someone understand or hear or listen to or watch. It's not the same. So, a choose your own adventure book, well, it does say book. It's not the same as a regular book because you get to decide where you go next. And so you can't really control all the outcomes. Now, maybe choose your own adventure is the way to go, Mitch. Maybe it's like, and do you want to go this way or you want to go this way? And then you keep them on the rails in that manner. And then the other thing is, how do you cut in 360-degree video,
Yeah.
Like, it's jarring enough to have the glasses on and to be looking around in the world and then take them off. Your brain kind of does this weird thing and you feel nauseous. If you're cutting in something like that, it's weird. I don't know how it's done exactly. It's
or
horrible.
Isn't done.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Now, one more VR rig for you, and this one we went with the $30,000. Now we're going to go with the $199. If you have a cell phone, an iPhone particularly, you can strap this to your iPhone, and now you can get spherical 360-degree video that you can share in real time on your Facebook or WeChat or live stream this to YouTube. So I guess people are doing it. Someone's doing it. This is for sale here. And if you guys are wondering where this came from, somehow I managed to search for the wrong thing on Amazon, and now my Amazon ads are completely filled with wacky 360-degree cameras and strange phone accessories and all kinds of weird stuff. Now, Mitch, you're going on vacation soon. Get one of these for me and show me your houseboat. Show me the lake. Show me what your family's up to, on the beach. Sound like a good plan?
Let's see. It's Friday. Let's see. Will they ship it to me by tomorrow? Nope.
Next day, Amazon.
It's not available on Prime, so forget it.
It's a weird device. When I saw it, it just started me thinking down the trail again of 360-degree video. Now, one thing I do like 360-degree video for, and it's concert coverage. If you can put a camera in the middle of a live performance of a band, it actually is really cool. It's not like you're there in front of the band, but it's almost like you're up on stage with the band and you got to look around. Now, is that something you want to watch all the time? I would say absolutely not. But is it good for like one or two songs? I think that's pretty cool. Otherwise, sporting events, I don't know. I don't think it works for all sporting events. I would love to see a tennis match done that way, but how do you avoid hitting the camera?
Very good point. Very good.
Speaking of hitting the camera, Mitch, I've got this one story in here, and this is actually a historical story about filming rocket launches and the Apollo 11 launch. You don't want your camera to get hit by a blast of hot rocket fuel. So tell me how they set this thing up and a little bit of the history behind this weird rig.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Brett, who wrote this story for us on Planet 5D. And I found it fascinating that the very first thing that he started out with is, for shooters of my age, it's hard to fully imagine a world in which professionals used only film. And if you imagine being at a place where you want to shoot in the old days, like when I was young, and by the way, I did see, I think it was, I'm not totally sure if I can recall. I lived in Florida at the time, and we saw, I think, either Apollo 13 or Apollo 14 launch, which was fascinating because, I mean, to see it live is just amazing. The Saturn rockets just blew us away, and it was we got there early while it was still dark, and got to see it in the nighttime, and then have the sun come up, and then the launch, and it just blew me away. But if you imagine film days and having to be able to remotely shoot from, and this is again 1969, 1970, to be able to remotely trigger your camera in those days. This story is all about how you put something like that together to rig your camera when you can't be there. And the ingenuity not only of the people that managed to get us to the moon, but to be able to shoot film remotely without Wi-Fi or cell phones or iPads or any of the technology that we have today. It's a fascinating article.
It seems like a science experiment when I look at the design of this thing. So it's a telescope with a light sensor, and the light sensor maybe goes to an electrical converter that turns the light input signal into a control signal that goes into the side of the camera to fire the operating mechanism. Is that how I see it?
Something, yes, and I don't remember all the exact details about how that works, which of course, as a plug, I mean, this article came from Nikon Rumors originally, so it's not just our content. But it's a fascinating thing, and looking at that image, you notice there's an old vice grip there holding everything together.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see the vice grip.
Slays me. Wow. But that's what you had to do back in the day, and I love the comment. There's a long comment from a guy named Sam who posted that a friend of his father's dad is a medical specialist, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he describes it, and I'm going to try to talk to this guy Sam and see if we can get some more information about this camera equipment that his friend set up, because it was a panoramic camera that he has rigged up with Raspberry Pis and other things to be able to shoot things like the space shuttle launches. And I've always just been totally fascinated by the space program because I was born and raised in a teenager at the time of the moon landings, and it just fascinates me. And we're so used to the digital age. I mean, we know how to shoot remotely now. We know how to see the images instantly. I mean, these guys were shooting film and had to calculate what their exposures were going to be. And if it was a darker day, because for many of you who may not know, these cameras were placed very close to the actual launch, far away, miles away from where humans were allowed to be. So it wasn't like they were just standing there with the remote trigger going click, click, click. They had to set these cameras up. And in this story, the one down below talks about setting the camera up several days in advance because he wasn't allowed access the day before. So he had to put a tarp over the camera and figure out how to get the tarp to come off. I mean, just this insane stuff that people had to do in the old days to make these shots. And it just grounds me. we have such advantages today, and we often bitch and moan about, oh, this camera doesn't have spec XYZ or this and that. And the amazing things that people pulled off in the past with very little equipment, it's very DIY, very much DSLR film noob kind of stuff, and it's just fascinating to sit and read. I'd love to see a video of somebody sitting down and talking about this kind of stuff and with the equipment, because I'm a visual kind of guy and I get kind of distracted when I'm reading long stories. But this kind of stuff's fascinating.
I'm glad I'm just old enough that I was able to shoot on both black and white and color film and learn to develop both of them
Nice.
before I was able to switch over to digital. It's really a different process, and if you ever get the chance or have a friend who has a dark room who's still sort of a traditionalist, go over to their place and check out the stop bath and the photo locker, the paper locker and all that stuff, and watch the process, because part of it, we talk about how great you can fancy up your photos with Photoshop and so on, but these guys, they actually cut out little pieces to dodge and burn your image. And, I remember sitting there with a little piece of paper, moving it around gently in different sections to change my exposure in my images. And with color photography, I mean, developing that, there's so many temperatures that you have to concern yourself with, and so many different little steps that go along with the development, that it's so easy to mess up. It's just really different now. And as soon as I got the Canon, what is it, D10, I think it was, I don't know, it was a long time ago, way back, the very first, I had a compact flash card that actually had a spinning hard drive in it, and
Wow.
a really old digital camera that was awesome at the time. I think it was a 10D. And that was my first awesome digital camera. And that was like night and day. Look at this. I can shoot as many pictures as I want. I don't have to worry about anything anymore. You're not limited to 24 or 35 exposures on a single roll anymore when you have a digital camera. It's just I mean, I often find myself like, oh, I want to make sure I get this right. I'm just going to put this in burst mode and hold the trigger down for, 30 seconds at a time and get, 20 or 30 different images. It's now, that would be ridiculous, 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I was about to say, if you ever shot film and you had 36 images on your roll, or 20, if you were cheap and bought the smaller roll, you had to plan what you were going to shoot. It wasn't like, oh, let's go shoot. I mean, you could, but we typically sat down and composed and thought about what you were shooting and what the right exposure was, even though we had meters and stuff. But it was so much more conscious in the film days than it is now. Everybody just goes out and shoots.
Well, and changing lenses too. I mean, when I shot on a Pentax K1000, you put a roll in, and that's the lens you're stuck with until you're done. There wasn't any of this like, I'm going to switch over to this lens and switch back over to this lens and change my shooting style.
Or shoot in the dark versus daytime.
I know.
Yeah.
Some of the cameras now, like my Sony A7S Mark II, it can see better in the dark than I can. And, when I shot black and white, we bought these giant reels of film that were ISO 400, I believe, and we would roll it into the cartridges ourselves. And I mean, that's it. That's as good as it gets. So you have to really plan for having enough light to shoot your subjects. There is no like, oh, I'm just going to put it in auto ISO and let it ramp all the way up to 3200 and all the way down to 100 if I need to, And you didn't have that option. And so you really had to work hard and think about it. I'm a lazy photographer now compared to then.
Oh, yeah, we all are. We all are, absolutely.
But if you get the chance, I'm not a traditionalist, and I wish I'd have, if I knew this talk was coming, I would have posted the picture in the show notes. I have a picture I took of some hipsters selling poems that they type on a typewriter for you when I was in Portland the other day. And it's the same thing with photography. Like, if you ever get a chance, go do it once. If there's a public darkroom somewhere in your city that you live in, go talk to some of those guys and shoot a roll. Borrow a camera, shoot a roll of film, and try and develop it and see what happens. it's a really interesting, different process, and it really gets you thinking about your current style of photography and maybe put a little more effort into what you do and how you do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of nostalgia week, by the way. We also had an article that I've just put in the show notes about blue screen. I found this video describing how back when they were shooting Star Wars, how blue screen developed for making background, green screen, what we call green screen today. It's a fascinating 12, 15-minute watch. I've forgotten exactly how long the video is. If you want to see what it was like in the old days, having to shoot with multiple filters and do different kinds of things to get the special effects, it's a fascinating story, and I won't go into it now, but if you're interested in how that works, go look at that story.
No, that stuff's really tough. Back then, you know, when you had to do like mats and all the other crazy things in order to accomplish what we can do now by clicking a button and moving some faders.
Yep.
All right, last thing on the list here is some weird stuff. This is a software program that allows you to make images move. And Mitch knows a lot more about this than I do. I just clicked on their website, and for some reason it crashed Google Chrome. So tell me more, Mitch.
All right, so I think most people know what a cinemagraph is. And if you don't know what a cinemagraph is, like DJ...
Yeah, Mitch brought this up, and I'm like, I have no idea what a cinemagraph is.
So a cinemagraph is imagine taking a video, say for a second or 2 seconds, of a model, and the wind is blowing in her hair. Now, in that 2 seconds, she's going to blink and she's going to move her head slightly, and you know, her face is going to move. But in a cinemagraph, what you do is you end up putting a mask over her face, and let's say you want just the hair to be moving, and so you end up creating an animated GIF or GIF, depending upon how you like to say the word, and you've masked out everything except for her hair that's moving, and then the rest of it is like a still image. Okay, so that's a cinemagraph. Now that takes a lot of work to do, to create. And there's a new product called PlotagraphPro, and I have not seen this in any kind of detail. I saw it referenced yesterday, and I sort of logged it in my head as something that we probably wanted to report on. But this is a methodology for taking a still image and making parts of it move like a cinemagraph. And I basically, I mean, the short version of way to say this. So I think we all kind of know Twixtor will let you smooth out and morph things in video. And in this situation, what you do is you get a still photograph, and in the show notes, if you're looking at the show notes, I grabbed one of their samples of a spiral staircase. And supposing, according to their website, what you do is you upload the still, and you go in and you specify which section of the image you want to move and which direction you want it to move, and press a button, and it animates it for you. Now, I have not had the chance to try this yet, but it looks pretty cool. I mean, to be able to have a still image where now in the staircase example, realistically, since there is nothing else that potentially is moving in the image, it's kind of like, okay, that could just be a video, right?
Yeah.
But you know, like typically, like the example I was talking about of a model where her eyes would normally move or she would breathe or whatever, and all you have moving is the hair. That's the concept, is to just have one portion of the image moving and the rest of it be a still image. And there are several samples they have, like the ocean, the surfer is really kind of cool. That's at the end of that stream, and you can't really modify it. But they have several examples that are fairly cool of a still image that they've managed to animate just a portion of the image. And it's cool. It's just one of those cool things, especially that we can now do with software that we couldn't do before with, or was more difficult to do in the quote-unquote old days. There's the surfer one if you happen to be watching the video.
Oh, I cut
That's all
away
right.
as soon
That's
as
all right.
Mitch
That's fine. That's fine. But so if you go over there to that website, PlotagraphPro, you can see all those samples, and it's basically Trickster for stills, and it's kind of cool.
It does look cool. I don't know. We were talking about this before the show, and it's like, even though you generate something like this, what do you do with it? You know, it's basically just for the web. It's not as though you could put this on a wall and see this. Is there any way to make this into a hologram of some kind, or some sort of like moving image that you could put on your wall?
Not that I'm aware of. It would go probably on one of those,
Digital frames.
Digital frames. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word, but yeah, something like that.
All right, guys. Well, that's the end of the show. This was a rough one, guys. Not a lot of great stuff today, but do definitely check out those 2 historical things that we mentioned. That's really cool stuff. And this moving photograph thing, if you want to play around with it, let us know how it turns out. Now, Mitch, do you have anything else before we get out of here?
Yes, as a reminder, open until Monday at 9 p.m. Central Time is the giveaway of the Cineo Matchbook Light Kit. We're giving away 2 of those. If you go to planet5d.com/giveaway noob, you can see that giveaway and register and enter. You have until Monday, August 1st at 9 p.m.
I will throw that into the show notes so you guys can find that fast and easy. As for me, I've got nothing else to say to add to this early morning. I'm going to go get my teeth hammered on in about 45 minutes. So wish me luck, and hopefully my air conditioner will not flood my basement in the future. You can find me on SoundCloud, on iTunes, I'm not on Pinterest. Never mind. Mitch, where can people find you?
Oh, you crack me up. I am Planet Mitch everywhere, except for the one guy that's reserved Planet Mitchell somewhere. I don't know, but I'm on Pinterest. You can look me up at Planet Mitch on Pinterest and Facebook and MySpace, and there's a website. There's a couple of websites that you can go in and put your nickname.
Yeah.
Or your preferred screen name, and it will show you all of the websites where you aren't registered with that name. If it's available, you can go register easily, and that's kind of cool.
Oh, I forgot to mention, did you know, and this is a side topic, but just kind of interesting, I use Flickr still. Yes, I'm an old man. I use Flickr.
Yeah.
You caught me. But now that Verizon is buying Yahoo as a property, they will own Flickr, and that implementation of Flickr may be changing and being rolled into some crappy Verizon my video, my photo junk that could inevitably ruin Flickr, which is
nice.
It's very, very sad and disappointing. I wonder how that's going to affect Tumblr, because didn't Yahoo buy Tumblr a few years back?
I don't know. Don't know.
Okay, never mind. There's also a great video, if someone wants to link to it, I don't know where it's at, but of a guy saying all of the social media things you can follow him on, and it actually takes 3.5 minutes and fills the entire screen with different banners, because there's so many different things out there to share. We will see you next time. This show was a long-winded episode of DSLR Film Noob Podcast. Fading out for the audio listeners.
Hi, audio guys and gals. It was a good show. I had fun.
I always have fun talking to you, Mitch. It's just some of the stuff, I bring it up and then I'm like, wait a minute, I put this in the show notes. Now I'm saying it out loud and I'm realizing this isn't nearly as exciting as I thought it was when I read it the first time. And you look at it, you're like, oh, look at this sweet graphics card. I want to talk about this. And then I get to it and I'm like, okay, medical applications, VR, and that's about it. Congratulations. You got a new sweet $1,000 graphics card. Good job. I don't know. Some days when the news hits, it's just not that good. I am excited about that Nikon lens, though. I would love to see a 105 f1.4 on the Canon side, which will very unlikely, probably never happen. And I am always jealous of the Nikon lens selection. If you're a Nikon shooter, you've got better glass. I'm gonna be honest. You got better glass. Your cameras, they're good. They may be missing a few things, and I hope Nikon doesn't flounder and fall off of the wayside. But man, the lenses are so good.
Yeah,
so good. And Sony, you should go buy Nikon and take over their lens lineup, because
there you go.
That would be great. That would be really good. Do that.
Yeah,
Sony.
we'll just pass that right along to them, okay?
And my wife is gone today, so I have two little monsters attacking me for love.
So cute.
Did I tell you I'm brewing cider too?
No. Damn.
So,
you find so much time. Most of us are sitting around staring at Facebook or watching the Idiot Box, and you're getting shit done.
Yeah, so you take yeast and you throw it into a bottle of apple juice, and in 7 to 10 days, it turns into alcohol.
Nice.
Which, I say that out loud, and then I'm like, wait a minute, hopefully there's no young people listening / watching, because if I were 17 or 16 and someone told me that, that'd be probably the first thing I would do, is go grab some yeast and throw it in a bottle and start fermenting my own moonshine.
Nice. Way to go, DJ. Corrupting the youth of the planet.
All right. Speaking of planet5d.com, DSLRFilmNoob.com. Anything else, Mitch, before we get out of here, man?
No, I could just keep going, but I got a vacation to plan for. Yeah!
Good luck on your vacation. I hope it goes well. And I think that is a scheduling note. So you'll be gone next week, correct?
Correct.
All right. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Devin is back and at home, so we will have Devin shows filling in while Mitch is gone.
Way to go, Devin!
Yeah, that poor guy. He just gets back from like a month worth of hoteling it, and now he's moving. So
oh no,
yeah. So he's gonna be in a rough shape for a little while. Good luck with that.
Grief. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yikes.
That's the end of the video portion of the show. We'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.